Thank you, Madam Assistant President. I rise to contribute to debate on this bill. It's a bill that the opposition is very happy to support. In fact, we're very pleased to see it presented because it's remarkably similar to one that we had presented previously that was at that point opposed by Labor. So it's good to see that they have reflected, they understand good legislation when they see it, and they're now prepared to move substantially the same bill. We want to see our sporting assets well used. We want to see all of our public assets well used and to be made available to a wide variety of the community. So we're happy to support at least the thrust and the intention of this bill. I'd like to make a couple of observations about comments that have been made in relation to what this bill may or may not do and what it would achieve. We've heard that this bill will, support sport and support participation in sport and support high-level sport and support those with responsibility for our sporting facilities to use them to the best of their ability. I think especially today of all days, we do need to call out some of the hypocrisy of Labor when it comes to what they're talking about in reasons for supporting this bill. Because today's the day that we have seen $220 million slashed from the Office of Sport in the New South Wales budget. So it is a bit rich to get up here tonight and to talk about how we are supporting sport and how we want to maximise sport on the very day that literally hundreds of millions of dollars have been ripped out of sport in New South Wales. And that adds, of course, to what they did to families who want their children to participate in sport and the way they have gutted the active kids vouchers. And we know from the Ausplay data that that gutting of the active kids vouchers correlates directly to falling participation rates of 15 to 17-year-olds in organised sport. 20% fall in participation rates of New South Wales 15 to 17-year-olds in organised sport, correlating to the same period as the gutting of the active kids vouchers. So we do need a bit of consistency when it comes to sport. And surely the Labor government is not suggesting that sport should be making up the shortfall that their budget is providing by commercialising state sporting assets. Surely this government would not be suggesting anything like that. So it would be good to get a consistent message in relation to that. And also, when we're talking about travel time to venues and travel time to accommodation, we don't want this bill to be used as an excuse for not building appropriate transport infrastructure. This is not an excuse not to be building further metros. This is not an excuse for drying up the infrastructure pipeline that we created and allowing good, efficient, safe transport for people to get home, not just from sport, but from concerts, from late night work, from education, from all of the things that people should be able to do. And so I think we just have to be realistic about all of these things. We also, I think, if we're thinking about our approach to developing venues and accommodation, need to make sure that the accommodation that is developed is accessible for the entire community, rather than certain that only sort of the more expensive end of accommodation. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose that's been outlined by members of the government in terms of increasing accessibility. And accessibility should be more than simply going to watch sport. We know that these venues are tremendous opportunities, especially for our children in representative comps, to play on really special ovals, to participate, for example, in competitions that might be held at former Olympic venues. And so we want to make sure that any accommodation that is built is open to and will be accessible to a wide variety of the community. I mean, having said that, it is always I think, a responsible thing to look at the way in which public assets can be better utilised and can be made available for a wider range of facilities across the entire community. It is important, of course, though, and I'm conscious of some of the comments raised by Dr. Conn in her speech, it's important to make sure that the drafting of any legislation is entirely consistent with the objectives of the legislation. And I do hope that we will hear that there has been adequate and appropriate consultation with all of the interested stakeholders, as is only appropriate, and that the drafting of the legislation is entirely consistent with what people in local communities expect to see of what are public assets. But what are we talking about with a public asset? We're talking about an asset that is owned by all of us. We are talking about an asset that is there at the service of the entire community, and it should be used consistently with the desires and the wishes of the entire community. And I'm sure with the way we all in New South Wales, if you think about how many late nights people have had over the last couple of weeks, entirely caused by the need, not even the desire, the need to stay up or get up very, very early and watch important sporting events. We know how much we value our sport, we value the provision of facilities for sport, and communities feel important ownership of these venues. And so we want to make sure that these venues are properly used and are properly made available to the broader community. And with that, I commend certainly the intent of the bill to the House.
Thank you.